Lubavitch has a lot of issues, but one thing that it absolutely did that I am like very grateful for is expose me to, you know, culturally Ashkenazi diasporic Jewish culture. You know, had had my parents put me into like a reform synagogue or even like a modern Orthodox like Hebrew school, I would have I would have been introduced to Judaism and to Jewish life, you know, in fundamentally different ways. I would not, I would not be I would have thought that the correct way to pronounce the holidays was Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Hanukkah. But given the upbringing that I had at first, I was like, no, this is Hanukkah, this is Yom Kippur, this is Rosh Hashanah. Um, the last two letters of the Aleph base are, you know, Tov and Sof, which are two distinct letters. Um, you know, Pasach and Komets are pronounced two very different ways. Um, and Yiddish and and also fundamentally, like I was the Jewish education I was given focused very, very heavily on the Jewish communities in Europe. Like there was so much, like at that point, I was already taught that between the time of the destruction of the Second Temple and the Holocaust, there was a lot of Jewish history and life to look at. We were taught about the Hasidic dynasties. We were taught about the Baal Shem Tov. We were also taught a bunch of stories about how the Baal Shem Tov literally performed miracles, but whatever. But the point is that from there, I went into more what I call mainstream Jewish environments. The like Jewish summer camp culture and reform Hebrew Sunday schools, where you know I got the more standard education that Tov and Sof are not two different letters. There is one single final letter in the alphabet, and it is Taf. And that Modernit is the only correct way to pronounce Hebrew, and that the correct version of Jewish history is that everything in the Torah, everything that was in the Torah is absolutely true, and then the second temple was destroyed, and the Romans ruined everything, and then nothing really happened for the next 2,000 years except a massacre here and there. And then the Holocaust happened, and then the state of Israel happened, and now everything's great. So, my there was just a lot of cognitive dissonance happening throughout my late childhood and adolescence. And just like I just something deep inside me knew that this was all so goddamn wrong on so many levels. Like I felt like I knew that there was just this whole world of Jewish culture and Jewish history that was actively being erased. I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't have the words to describe exactly what kind of erasure was happening. All I could say is that things like uh but what about this, and things like, well, I just don't like how modern Hebrew sounds. I don't know, it just doesn't sound right, it sounds fake. But then when I was 15, um my dad got, like, in a large shipment